Okay, hello everybody. In this video, we are going to be refining the mechanics in the game. And by that, I mean the health bar, inventory, that duduk mechanic and everything. Everything that you use very frequently within the game needs severe updating. So we're going to talk about that. Just to preface, this topic is going to be split into two videos because it's a lot of work, to be honest, and a lot to cover. So the first half is going to be focused on the design, and in the next video I'm just going to get feedback from people and then code everything and make everything work. So yeah. Alright, let's move onwards. Also, before I start, I fixed up the new input system. Instead of making it rely more heavily on code, I made it a bit easier on myself by adding the player input component onto any interactable object and then just linking that input action to some method that needs to be executed. I will show that in the video here. Also, I said in the last video, I ranted a little bit that for some reason in a certain event, everything would work perfectly fine, but throughout the whole game, it wouldn't. And I realized that was literally just because I was forgetting to subscribe and unsubscribe from events throughout the scene. So if you are like unlocking something, if you're unlocking something with the musical instrument on one object, it's going to check it for every single subscribed object out there, even if the scene hasn't been loaded, surprisingly enough. Moving on, yay! So, why are we changing the old mechanics? For obvious reasons, look at it. I also briefly mentioned it in previous videos, but two reasons, aesthetic and practical. The aesthetic reasons are that the icons are way too big. In other games, they aren't that big. They don't take away from the experience, especially for such an artsy-fartsy game. You should be able to look at things more instead of seeing a massive health bar in your way the whole time. Also, I think the color harmony isn't so great too, so I need to simplify the colors and stick to something very high contrast. And now onto the practical stuff. So firstly, they're not conveniently placed for the player. The duduk mechanic is at the bottom and the inventory for some reason is fully out there and just viewable the whole time throughout the game, and it's on the top left. So again, the player is constantly going like up and then down and then just completely opposite sides of the screen to access these two things, which is not good. There are other things that just don't make sense either. They're only interactable using the mouse, and again, that becomes very inconvenient sometimes because maybe you want to really quickly access something using your keyboard, so I'm going to add that. I was also suggested that I could make the buttons on the duduk interactable with a mouse. Maybe that could also help some people. I don't think it's going to be very popular to use it with the mouse because there's quite a lot of buttons, but I'll add that anyway and then see if I change my mind in the future, I guess. And then most importantly, I have not really studied other games UI as much, so people might not be as used to the format that I'm using. Now we move on to designing the visuals. So I took 4 inspirations from the games I'm currently playing or have played. So the first one was Deltarune, and one thing that I thought was really cool about that game was you can immediately quit the game by just pressing the escape button for a long time. That was a really cool and unique touch I haven't seen before. Otherwise, the controls aren't very intuitive on the keyboard. They don't really make sense, to be honest. The menu was very suitable to the game aesthetic itself. It reminded you of those cutesy pootsy old games. I also tried out Eastward, which if there's one thing that they excelled in, it's the visuals. It's just absolutely perfect. The one thing I didn't like about the game itself was that the story and the characters were just kind of boring, but besides that, I feel like literally everything was perfect and I really liked playing it. But like, I stopped playing it exactly because there was just too much dialogue and the characters were boring. Looking at their UI, it's absolutely beautiful and it's just so pleasing to just click on buttons because of the sound effects and the little visual effects and stuff that they mix in with everything. It's just so satisfying. The colors work very well with each other. I think this was the design of UI that inspired me the most, and we'll talk about that soon. The controls weren't super intuitive, but you can change those in the settings. Like, it's not that big of a deal, to be honest. Another game that I freaking love is Helix 2. Their UI was very simple. and I feel like again it's really added to the game because there's just so much going on throughout the whole game, and contrasting that with a very simple stereotypical game type of menu really adds to everything, because firstly it takes you away from the game experience and like pauses everything sort of, but at the same time it adds to it because it's a very abstract game, but I don't think it would work for my game just because it doesn't have that like rough feel, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say when I'm adding the visuals on the screen here. And I really loved the intuitive design. I didn't have to guess throughout the keyboard where everything was, because you just had to press the escape button to access the menu and then press it again to move it back out. You could just very easily access everything using just the arrow keys and the escape button, which was awesome. Yeah, that's it. So I sketched out all of their designs and took a big look at them and saw that they added to their game while also keeping everything nice and simple and accessible. I wouldn't say Deltarune's menu was so simple actually, but maybe they were trying to go for, I don't know, like those stats sort of leveling up sort of games, but I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe they could have just kept it simpler because the game itself is very like nice and simple, but I don't know. The most important thing though is the controls themselves and how easy it is to access everything, because first and foremost everything should be easily accessible. For something as simple as the menu, the player shouldn't feel frustrated by wanting to like turn the sound down in a game. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I do my designs. Why am I saying going to? I already did everything. Anyway, I did a couple of sketches. So here is the picture of my original sketch. Everything is very simple, but at the same time it's too simple and it's not the same vibe as like the average video game that you would play. Okay, so my first design, basically I have my main menu. I'm not going to change the main menu because I love it, but the checkpoints and options I should change, which I will save for the next video. I was thinking the start button can just have everything in there, like the checkpoints, inventory, achievements. That's where you access everything basically. The options will be a lot more complex, but yeah, you access everything from the main menu basically. You just press the escape button to get to the main menu, and then you should be able to press the escape button to remove it from view too, and that's like the common theme for all of my plans. Yeah, and then another idea that stuck with me was moving the health bar to the very bottom left, which is an idea I took from Eastward, and instead of having a button for the musical instrument, I can have something more visually appealing, I guess, and more creative, where I can have the head of the duduk at the very corner of the screen, and when you click on it, it pops the cap off so you can play it and stuff. Anyway, you'll see it later on in the video what I'm trying to talk about, but I really like this idea and I didn't change it. But the problem with this plan exactly is that it just takes longer to access certain things. For example, the inventory, the map, the achievements, which by the way, I want to add a map and achievements. That's why I'm saying like it's kind of a lot of work because the game is growing. Demands must be met. The second design, this time I'm abstracting things like the inventory and map and stuff and putting it in a separate window. So we still have the checkpoints and the options tab, but you start off with the main menu and then you start your new game and stuff, and then you can play throughout the game. And then if you want to access things like inventory, achievements, and map, you press the ESC button and that's how you access it. And the design here is kind of inspired by Helix. I was thinking when this window is popped in, I can do a cute move to the right sort of animation for all the existing UI, like the health bar and the duduk. Another thing that I really liked that a lot of games use and my game didn't was detailing the current objective in the settings, and it's something that my game sorely needs because people were very lost throughout the early access game, so I'm definitely going to add something like that. I honestly still don't hate this design, it's kind of good, but I don't know, I wrote in the comments that it's kind of cluttered and overwhelming and the design could be better, even though you could navigate easily using the arrow keys or mouse. Yeah, I guess. I kind of like it though, like now that I'm looking at it again. I don't know, we'll see. The third idea was, so this is more Eastward inspired. I have some cute little buttons to the left for the inventory, achievements, map, and then going back to the main menu. So that's how that flow works basically. You press the escape button to access this stuff, but if you want to go back to the main menu to exit the game or save some progress, you click that very last button to access the main menu. There's a small doubt in my head that maybe this might be a confusing way to navigate through the settings, but I see a lot of games already do that and I guess it works. If I see throughout the game that it's not working out, I'll change it. I like this design the most, to be honest, because it doesn't obstruct that much view from what's going on in the background of the game. So you get like a cute in-game background. So the final idea, which was inspired by Deltarune, it's very cute. I love the design, but it's just too many things going on at the same time for a game that's as simple as mine. Plus, like, how am I supposed to fit the map in here? How am I supposed to make it look pretty with this sort of design? It's too cluttered. So after that, I went ahead and did some color sketches and played around with the colors. I picked out the bazaar background. Bazaar. Anyway, because it's a very, very colorful background, and I just wanted to make sure that the colors of the main mechanics matched with the background no matter where we are in the game. Yeah, I used pretty basic designs for the main mechanics. I used a very yellowish tone because that's what the logo of the game is colored in. While working on the submenu, I doodled around with all the icons and the ordering and layout of the UI. For the color, I obviously used the yellow that I use in the logo. So now that everything was ready, I moved on to coding. Basically, I mainly just focused on the animation of things and the very general setup of everything, so I can move on and work on the details in the next video. Basically, what I achieved in terms of the code was animating the duduk so that when you click on the head, it moves to the right, and then you can play the notes with the buttons. And as you can see, it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot more convenient this way because those massive buttons aren't like blocking your way. The arc thing that I did previously was a good idea, but I just feel like it was too overwhelming, to be honest, and this design is a lot simpler and nicer to look at. And it's like, in the game, did people actually know that was a duduk? I don't think so. So now I've made it a lot more obvious. You can also use the Q button to move it back and forward. I use the Q button because it's very close to all the other controls, the WASD thing. Okay, moving on to the submenu. Just laid out the general code for all of the mechanics. I just focused on changing the visuals for every time a certain button was clicked. And then I also made it possible for the menu to immediately phase into screen when you go to the main menu button. Alright, so what are we looking forward to in the next video? I am going to, sorry, I'm just reading my notes right now because I don't remember anything. Refresh the main menu to fit new options and checkpoint systems, yes. Collecting feedback on the submenu and finalizing the submenu. So yeah, if you have any opinions on the new design, please let me know in the comments. You know, is it better or worse than the original layout? I don't know, is it accessible? Is it nice to look at? That sort of stuff. In the next video, we're gonna be doing a lot of work. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to finish everything on time, so no promises. You know, designing maps for every single scene, or I don't even know, I need to think about that. Designing the achievements. Besides that, the inventory script is going to work fine for this current layout, actually. I just need to clean it up because there were some bugs related to it in the early access game. Thank you for watching the video. Let me know what you think and have a nice day.